right, it's mailbag time here on Chicago Bears Now. We're going to take your questions momentarily, but to be a part of this mailbag, you got to subscribe and join us live every Monday and Thursday. Could be adding a weekly Friday stream as well, so keep that in mind. But if you have those notifications turned on too, you'll know exactly when we go live. So channel icon's right there. Hit the subscribe button. Join the movement here on Chicago Bears Now. All right, I'm Harrison Graham. We'll get to your questions in a second, but did Teven Jenkins call out Luke Getsy? Because I think Teven Jenkins called out Luke Getsy, even if it wasn't super direct. Here's what he had to say in an interview he did with Fox Sports. He said, I feel more continuity this year. There's more explanation behind what we're doing. Instead of like last year where some things were gray in some areas, now we're really hammering out the small details, and I feel like half the stuff is because we retained offensive line coach Chris Morgan. So, yes, he's still there, but that tells me where the other shortcomings were. Well, that's got to be due to Luke Getsy, not being sharp enough on the little things. I mean, Shane Waldron just has to be an upgrade. I don't know how good he's going to be, but he's got to be better than Getsy, right? Like, he just has to be. The Getsy thing, and look, like, everyone always, is it Getsy? Is it Fields? I think the answer in the end was probably a little bit of both, but I'll tell you this, the early reports out of Vegas haven't been great around Luke Getsy, so we'll see how that plays out. But hopefully Waldron's an upgrade. I feel like he is. Obviously, we have to see it, but, man, it's I don't think Luke Getsy was necessarily the most well-liked guy either. All right, give me a word. Describe the Luke Getsy experience in one word. If you had to drop just one word on Getsy in his 2 years here, what would you say? I would say maddening. Because regardless of what you think about Justin Fields, he did not lean into his strengths as a player nearly enough. So I'd be curious to see what your one-word reaction is down in the comment section. All right, we got Petey. Who is the most underrated player on the Bears roster besides DeAndre Swift? Teven Jenkins, I think, is actually pretty underrated. When he's healthy, he's a damn good player. I will say, you know, underrated, who's just a solid player, just does his job, it's Andrew Billings. Very underrated player. Plays a position at nose tackle that doesn't get a lot of love, but he does what you want to do. He eats up blocks and he stuffs the run. That's what you want out of a one-tech, and he's pretty good at it. Donald Lear, if the Williams contract impasse goes into the preseason, do you think he would start the season opener? The regular season opener? Yes. I guess if he hasn't signed a contract by week 1, then I guess I actually don't know how that works. Can he even play? I actually don't know the answer to that, but I think it's way too premature to jump into any scenarios like that. It would be utterly shocking if he wasn't the starter in week 1, barring an injury. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like we said, we publish content every single day for 100% free. If you want to be a part of these mailbags, you got to subscribe, so be sure to do so here on Chicago Bears Now. Jay Reezy, should we go after Micah Parsons at the trade deadline if the Cowboys are struggling? I mean, he'd be awesome, right? Are you ready to pay him $35 million a year? That's what it's going to take, probably, while also trading at least a first and maybe multiple. Look, I'll say this. If the Bears are even better than expected, like let's say they're like 6-2 and Dallas is just a mess and they decide to enter some kind of rebuild, I mean, offer 2 firsts for Micah and a third or something like that. I mean, you put Micah opposite of Montez Sweat, that's pretty lethal. It'd be fun, man. I don't envision that scenario playing out because you'd have to get a ton, and Dallas would have to be willing to give up one of the 5 or 6 best young players in this league. But man, if they're struggling, who knows? Anything's on the table at that point. Fear the Squid. Who are the realistic targets for defensive end next year for agency or draft? Obviously, anyone we sign this year will be a 1-year deal. Yeah, I know there's the guy. I'm blanking on his name. Penn State has one. I think his name's Abdul. He's a good edge rusher. It's supposed to be a good pass rusher class. I was reading that recently. I haven't dove super deep into the draft yet. Once I get into the college football season, that's when I really ramp up, like, okay, this guy's going to be a good player, that guy, all that stuff. So once we get into September, October, I'll have a better feel for that. And same kind of goes with free agents. I got to look at the list. But, look, I think, like, if you were to ask Harrison what is going to be addressed or what needs to be addressed most strongly next offseason, I would say, yeah, like getting more pass rush help in here. I think that's pretty clear. Who is your least favorite Bears player of all time? Like someone you're just like, that guy was a freaking bum, or you just didn't like his personality, whatever it was. Least favorite Bears player of all time. I want to hear it from you guys. Dark Cobra, who will have the most interceptions on the Bears roster? I think I said this the other day. I'll go Tyreek Stevenson. Jalen will be the best corner, but I think Tyreek, his aggressive play style could lead to more interceptions. He'll get beat more, but I think it could lead to more interceptions. So I'll say Tyreek Stevenson leads the team, and with let's go 5 interceptions. Henry Forte, what is your thoughts on Cole Kmet disrespect? ESPN ranked him 14th. PFF ranked him 11th. I mean, 14 is outrageous. I mean, for one, he's a 3-down tight end. He blocks and catches the football. 2, he's gotten better each of the last 3 years. I think he's closer to top 5 than to 15. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. Like, if you're asking me, just without even really thinking about it, where does Cole Kmet rank among all tight ends? I'd say between 7 and 10, somewhere. But, like, after Kelsey, Kittle, and if you want to say Laporta's already better, I couldn't really argue with you. He's pretty awesome. Like, who's clearly better than Cole Kmet at tight end? Like, he's in that conversation starting at about 4 or 5. I'd probably have him more like 7 or 8, but he's a top 10 tight end for sure. 14, that's a joke. Skeptor, would you trade Keenan Allen in a 3rd or a 4th to the Bengals for Tee Higgins if the Bengals have a bad season? I think you're talking about this as like a trade deadline type of deal. I don't know. Like, how good of a year is Keenan having? Because do you want to like change up the type of receiver you have for your rookie quarterback on the fly like that? Like, obviously Higgins is going to play longer. He's a much younger player, but Keenan Allen's playing well. Like, that feels like more of an offseason type of deal from the Bears standpoint. Like, if Keenan's playing well, you're not trading him just to get younger at the position in the middle of the season. Like, I don't think that's smart with the rookie quarterback. Denny Edquist Jr., hey, Harrison, just curious, how long have you been a Bears fan? 37th season for me coming up. I'll be honest, doing this channel has made me a Bears fan. I always liked the Bears growing up. Like, Devin Hester, probably my favorite player ever growing up. I was a huge Hester fan. With the Bears, always loved their defenses. But I didn't become a diehard fan until we started this channel and like built this community, and a lot of that's due to you guys. So pat yourself on the back, because I'm a huge Bears fan now. I've never claimed to be a lifelong one. I won't claim that, but now and moving forward in the last few years, no question. It's been a blast. Honestly, when they drafted Justin Fields, that was awesome. Even though it didn't work out, but I was like, man, this is going to be exciting, and it was. It just didn't lead to enough wins. Fear the Squid, what are the chances of the Bears trading for Mack if the Chargers are out of the playoffs by the deadline? We could possibly get them on the cheap. Yeah, I feel like the Chargers, if they're not in the mix, they're going to be a team that could look to unload Khalil Mack and or Joey Bosa. So keep an eye on them. Both those guys are getting older as pass rushers. Obviously, Mack, I think he's 32 now, so he could certainly be a guy that the Bears consider. And you could, like you said, get him at a reasonable deal on a trade. Maybe it's like a 4th-round pick at the deadline or something like that. Shout out to the Notcast for a super chat. What is your Chipotle order? I'm a mix-it-up guy. Like, I'm not one to do the same thing every time. This is a hot take. I'm not a big Chipotle bowl guy, and the reason is, and, again, hot take, I don't think their rice is that good. I think their rice is pretty mediocre, and to me, in a bowl, like, if you're going to go bowl, you got to be a rice guy, which I am, but I don't like their rice that much. So I usually go either a burrito or with their tacos, and I mix up the protein. Sometimes I do chicken. Their steak is good. I like their barbacoa as well. And then when they do like those limited time ones, like what's that Pastor one they did recently? That one's good. Not a sponsor unless you want to be Chipotle. I know you're watching, but yeah, I mix it up. I'll even do their quesadillas every once in a while. So It's all good. It's all good. I don't love their rice. There's just something about it. I don't think their rice is that good. All right, that's enough Chipotle talk. But if you have more Chipotle questions or Bears questions or life questions or NFL questions or anything else, at HGramNFL on Instagram is where you can find me. I'm posting Bears short form content over there as well, so come check us out.